Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the Meteor 75 Pro. This is kind of almost a revisit because most things are the same, but one big change that they have is they're now using a different flight controller. The primary purpose behind that flight controller is it now has the VTX on board, and it's also slightly lighter. It's got a 1 millimeter thick board. As a reminder, this does not have the traditional micro USB port. They have this little adapter you have to plug in, and it is USB-C based. The motors are 1102, 22,000 kV, and on those motors are Gemfan 45mm tri-bladed props. The camera remains the same. It's the BetaFPV CO3 camera. Connector is BetaFPV's BT20 with a 180 degree turn in it. As you can also see there, we have motor connectors, so we can swap out motors relatively easily without having to do any soldering. Those holes in the canopy, they have some accessories that you can make this kind of look like a knight from the days of yore. Also in the accessory package are two different additional camera mounts that change the camera angle. So you can't change the camera angle by just pushing this down. You've got to take the canopy off, unscrew that mount, what you can see right here, put the new mount on, of course, with the camera inside. It weighs 30.24 grams or 30.25 grams. I flew it and tested it with these three different 1S batteries. With the GNB 550, it weighs 43.43 grams. With the BetaFPV 550, it weighs 44.52 grams. And with the BetaFPV Lava 450, it weighs 42.75 grams. While it's called the Meteor 75 Pro, I am getting 80 millimeters or a little bit over that, but they do list 80 millimeters as the specification, motor post or motor post. Of course, in the accessory pack, we get a micro or tiny Phillips screwdriver, we get the USB adapter, we get some extra props and some extra motor screws. The aforementioned accessories, a 1S battery checker and charger. It plugs in via USB-C, and it does come with the cable to plug in this little charger. Of course, we're going to start off with the inside flight, but I do want to call your attention to the time on the OSD. When we get to 3 minutes and 34 seconds, we're going to see a VTX issue that I sometimes experienced. Also note that because we're talking about the VTX, that I am flying R1, which is race band 1. Typically, I fly race band 8. This particular flight that I picked out just happened to be on that because I did fly race band 8 as well. I didn't think the VTX signal clarity that I typically get in the house was up to par. That's why one of the reasons why I changed channels, just to see if I could get different sorts of reception. I didn't find it changed much. And the aberration, or the thing that I'm going to draw your attention to at the timer at the bottom right at 334, I did experience that on both R8 and R1. It could be a one-off. That's just, mine, but it could impact the others as well. It could be something that needs to be corrected. I didn't experience this issue outside. Outside, I thought the VTX or the video transmission was pretty normal. For those that aren't familiar with the channel, I've been flying inside the house for somewhere around 8 or 9 years, and I get good video reception. Mainly flying on the raceband channels, primarily raceband 8. That gets us up above Wi-Fi, which of course my home does have Wi-Fi inside of it, so that frequency is fairly important when it comes to getting good video signal. Also, our house is made of traditional sheetrock and wood. Your video reception in different sorts of home layouts and construction will be somewhere between markedly different to slightly different, depending upon how different it is. But you can see as we're down here in the basement, we're getting a lot of the black flashes around in our video, which I don't typically get. And you can go to any of the Whoop videos that I've made. When I'm talking Whoop videos, I'm talking those that are traditional Whoops, those that are 85 millimeter and less, as far as motor post or motor post, 2-inch prop and less. I don't generally fly the bigger Cinewhoops inside the house. As far as its flyability, it flies well, but I don't think that too many people would want to fly this particular one inside their homes unless you have a home with an open floor plan like ours, or you just have a big industrial space that you plan to fly inside, because as the prop gets bigger, our efficiency goes up and the amount of thrust that it produces goes up, but it also means our margin for error, because it's a bigger quad that does produce more thrust, is smaller, so you've got to be more precise. And I had loads of crashes, and I've already kind of shown you one in the little teaser clip that's part of my speed runs that I do that test durability. I think I ran 6 to 7 batteries just trying to go all out, and that's what that clip for that teaser, or that first intro clip came from, is trying to do speed runs, just trying to push my own skill set and to test the durability overall. The short story is I didn't have any issues with breakages or damage or anything stopped working as far as motors. Of course, the props took quite a bit of damage, but that's pretty normal, as you might expect with, somewhere close to, it's got to be close to 40 or 50 crashes, because I must have had 40 inside flights. Outside, I didn't have nearly as many flights, but we can talk about that when we get to the outside flight. We're coming up on that video issue that is going to cause a crash, and I did experience this with some frequency. It didn't happen every flight, but it did happen on a good many flights. I would say somewhere close to half, and there it was, the black and the kind of diagonal lines. Again, this could be a one-off that's specific to the one particular quad that I have here with the Matrix. It might not be, I don't know. But like I said, I did test it on not only Raceband 8, but Raceband 1. But we're going to go ahead and finish out the battery. Now, they do tout a flight time of 6.5 minutes on a 550 milliamp battery. This particular flight is not on the BetaFPV battery. It's on one of my older G&B batteries. If you have a fresh battery and you fly pretty slowly, you might get 6 minutes or 6.5 minutes. It's just going to really depend upon how slowly. You see the flight ended. We got almost 4 minutes on that old battery. It's been well used, and our voltage on our battery is back up above 3.5 volts, which is my goal after landing and disarming for a few moments, that I do get 3.5 volts. So this flight came shortly after Christmas. If you're watching this, way later, that might not mean much to you, but pretty pleasant out. 49 degrees. I did not know if I was going to get a chance to fly this one outside, just because our weather doesn't oftentimes cooperate this time of year. It gets quite cold, but it's been unseasonably warm, I guess you'd say, 49 degrees. And the winds were measured by the weather data services at 6 to 10 miles an hour, but it's real calm. I could barely feel any wind at all, and that's why I'm flying this outside. Generally speaking, when it comes to our traditional all-plastic frames, I don't fly them outside as the weather gets below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I just worry about breakages because the plastics get cold. Plastics don't like to be cold and they get brittle. And I don't want to have a review where I've flown this and say, 32 degree weather and had a bunch of breakage, because it doesn't necessarily represent what I think is reasonable. But I got a lucky day, and the wind was nice and calm, and it was pretty reasonable as far as the temperature. It's gloomy, cloudy, overcast, so don't let the image make you think it was sunny and it's just the image presented by the camera. It is gloomy and overcast out. There isn't hardly much sun to be seen. But this is probably more likely how more people would enjoy a 75 Pro, something with this size of prop and this size of quad. Kind of outside, playground, smaller space like a backyard. You play around with your trees, and maybe you have some lawn furniture or something like that. And I take a digger right into the ground, as I just didn't hit the throttle hard enough, and I'm going to struggle a little bit to get away from the fence. It's kind of, the landscape is slanted down towards the fence, and I wasn't really certain about my orientation, and so ended up sucking up to the fence. So I had to disarm, go back down, turtle mode again, and we're off, and we'll finish out the rest of the flight without any more crashes. So in each one of the flight segments that I've shown in this video, we've had a crash. And like I said, I've had many crashes with this. I spent most of my time flying inside, though. This flight is going to be relatively short. I think that has a little bit to do with the temperature of the batteries. They don't like to get cold. It's not necessarily cold, but it's not necessarily warm either. So we're going to see a lot of that low battery warning. While I did adjust the low battery warning when I was inside, I didn't adjust it for the outside flights. And there was something that I've just never thought to do right there. That little punch over what we call the cabana area. I'm going to do it again, and it won't happen. It won't turn out as well. But for some reason, I just I don't know, I just did that, and then I was like, I saw the little hole as I was coming down, so I dove through it, and then of course the second time I wanged into that chair that's sitting over in that little outdoor space. So you can see heaters that we have in the ceiling, and then a ceiling fan, of course, for those warmer months when we're out there using it most likely. But that was kind of fun, and it was kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to show this flight, even though it's not that best of flight. It was just kind of one of those spontaneous moments where I just I don't know what, I have no idea what I was thinking. I just punched up over the cabana, and then when I nosed over, I kind of saw that little spot next to the tree and the rooftop, and I was like, I think I can make it down there pretty easily. And sure enough, I did. Second time around, I didn't come out so clean, but yeah, it was a fun moment, so I wanted to share that with everybody. But the flight has ended. We can see with outside where we're using a lot more throttle, we're doing punch outs. We get less flight time. That's to be expected. 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Again, this is on an older G&B battery. On the fresh 550s that BetaFPV sent with this, I did get about 40 seconds more flight time inside. I don't have that information for outside flights, but could have flown even longer because the battery's at 358. So the flight times on this, on the Meteor 75 Pro with fresh, they sent these batteries and I marked them. I got 2 of these inside. This is my inside flight times on fresh 550s from BetaFPV. I got about 5 minutes on average with these, with lots of crashes. On the Lava 450s, I got about 3 minutes and 30 seconds, again inside. And then with the G&Bs, as you saw in the video, but sometimes I could get as much as 4 minutes and 10 seconds on these. So your flight times are going to vary a fair bit. Of course, if you're flying outside where you might be going faster or doing more traditional freestyle maneuvers with 100% throttle and coming way off the throttle, flight times will vary quite a bit, but I wanted to report what I got. I did not put any of the night accessories on the quad. While it may look neat on sitting on your shelf, I don't have a purpose for them. They're there for you to use. Of course, do know that they add weight, and whenever you add weight to small quads, that means your agility, overall performance, as well as flight time is going to go down by some degree, depending upon how much weight you do fly. Something else to note about the batteries is, like, I use these are A30 batteries from G&B, and they fit in here fine. I didn't find them sliding around or anything like that, but I just, connected them up as just a little bit of a proof of concept. So we plug these in just like so. We get our little tones, and you can probably see the light down in there. It's ready to go. It works just fine. A30 and BT20 are compatible. The BetaFPVs fit in here normally as well. Little bit, I think they're slightly tighter than the G&B 550s. Once you get above this size, they start to get to where you're going to really have to be using some force to get the batteries in. I don't suggest that, and I know that I tried to dry fit an 850, and I didn't try real hard, but just looking at the size of the 850 with this, it was far too big. So don't expect to run really big batteries. Matter of fact, I say the safe bet is to just get some 550s. The Lava 450s fit in here pretty well as well. They didn't slide around. They weren't loose or sloppy. Matter of fact, I would say they're the same dimensions as the 550. And I thought BetaFPV had some Lavas in a 550, but in the moment, because I don't have their website up, I can't say that for certain. And as we look here at the bottom, you can tell I didn't have any damage or breakages. All the struts are in good working order. The only damage I might have would be with the props. You can see some prop chipping like this area. And I'm sure they got a little bent up. There's some more prop damage here over in this end. But that's pretty normal, as you bang into stuff around the house or wherever you're flying. The props are going to get chipped up. And as long as they're not terrible, I'll leave them on the quad and continue to fly. The biggest concern I have is that blackout issue, and it's something that I could go further on. Is as you may have noticed in the flight background, I use the HD0 goggles, and they have a setting to where you can turn the DVR to auto, so it will record automatically when it detects a signal, and traditionally I use that. And after I had done several days of flying, I went back through my flight footage, and I started noticing that I had way more flight data or DVR files than I had flight batteries. And so it was losing the signal, the VTX signal, and starting a new recording. In my first flight session, I think there were 8 flights, and I had like 34 files from the DVR. So it was losing it even when I didn't have that blackout issue. And so then I switched my DVR setting over to manual, and I manual recorded. And that's how I got the footage that I showed you. because it would chop the files up and I would miss all sorts of frames, of course, because when the DVR detected a signal again, I was already still flying, and so I would miss possibly seconds, and I really can't sync that up with the flight audio. Flight audio does not come on the squad. It comes from actually this cell phone, and I just set it near me, and I sync through video editing the flight audio with the DVR files. So the DVR files and the numbers I was getting was telling me that there was another issue with the video signal. Of course, we saw the blackout. I didn't think the video signal was as good as I got with other quads over the years. I did test my equipment to make sure it hadn't gone bad or something by getting a BetaFPV Air 65 out and flew it, and it recorded normally on auto, and I didn't see any sort of video signal degradation that I did experience with this. So this Matrix 4-in-1 all-in-one flight controller that I have could have an issue, or it could be something that they all have. I don't know. I've only got the one to test, and unless others have it, hopefully we have other reviewers, my counterparts out there, that have flown theirs, and they have them and tested either the same or different equipment that could verify or deny my findings that I'm having on this one. Again, I think this is primarily for outside unless you have a big industrial space, but you have to judge that. You know, these are bigger than the traditional 65 millimeter. They have the advantage of producing more thrust and being able to do bigger moves over our 65 millimeters. But the 65 millimeter is going to be more indoor friendly. You know, this again measures 80 millimeters motor post to motor post, and we have bigger props than even a traditional 75 millimeter whoop. So these are bigger. They're getting closer to the 85 millimeter whoop than they are the 75 millimeter whoop. I would like to see, essentially on tiny whoops, it's always tough, but I would like to see, if we're going to have a big canopy like this, that we have a mount in here that just allows us to move the camera angle by unscrewing, you know, a half turn or something, the screws, and then be able to push the camera up or down. Of course, this is, you know, it is adjustable. It just is going to take time. It's not something you're going to be able to adjust without having a screwdriver with you, because you do have to take the canopy, the 3 screws from the canopy off, and then the 2 screws that are holding the camera holster or mount inside, and change that to the different one. So you have to have the others with you as well, and then put those 5 screws back in, and then you're ready to go fly again. So my largest concern, as I've hit a few times, is the video signal. So you may want to check other reviews, other videos. Make sure they're the new version, because this Meteor 75 Pro has been around for maybe a year or 8 months. I can't remember how long since the original came out. They are going to be more friendly for HD purposes. So I think they have an HD version of these, and because you have bigger props, it's going to be more friendly to having the additional weight of the HD versions, whether it's Walk Snail or HD Zero. I think those are the two that are available for the HD versions of this. But if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.